Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Ghana reaches debt restructuring deal with bilateral creditors, a move critical to securing $360 million from the IMF after approval on the second program review. Also coming up, government goes after foreign income of residents in Ghana to make up for suspension of VAT on electricity tariffs. We'll analyze its impact in addressing revenue shortfall and on the forex market as well. Plus, interest rates remain relatively same for first time since January 1, as government T-bills are oversubscribed following 2 weeks of undersubscription. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. Ghana has reached a deal with bilateral creditors on restructuring of debts owed lenders. Joy Business understands that the deal was reached through the official creditor committee in February this year. George Jaffe joins us from Washington, D.C. in the U.S., where he is covering the annual IMF World Bank spring meetings. George, first, a quick background to this whole debt restructuring, how we have gotten here. You are muted. You are muted, George.
Hello, Daryl.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So Daryl, as part of this whole IMF program, it was supposed to work to deal with our level of debt in this country. And therefore, one critical thing in this whole IMF program is that how can our debts be brought to a certain level that can be described as sustainable. Don't forget that the IMF and the World Bank together have described as our debt as unsustainable, and therefore one critical pillar of this program was how to work to bring our debt to sustainable levels so that we can say that the country now has gotten to a level where it can be able to meet its debt obligation. One of it, Daryl, was to try and work out a deal with the bilateral creditors, which involves the World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, and even for other countries like Germany and Australia. And another bit of it was to engage those who are holding Eurobonds, maybe call it the private international creditors. Daryl, what we understand, and this bilateral creditor deal, Daryl, was being worked out through the official creditor committee under this G20 common framework championed by the IMF. It's been back and forth, Daryl. And what we've picked up from multiple sources indicate that as of February, a Memorandum of Understanding was reached, Daryl. Now, you would ask that, what about the agreement that was reached that even allowed the IMF to go to its board for us to get a program? There was an agreement in principle. Ghana was supposed to have moved ahead to reach an MOU. It means that for these bilateral creditors, they are now okay with the terms that should help in restructuring the $5.4 billion. So, Daryl, that is a quick update in terms of this whole bilateral debts and its restructuring, Daryl.
And so I was wondering, if a deal was reached in February, why are we hearing about it now?
Well, now again, it is because you and I and people in the media space and those who have been following this thing are pushing hard on this for some clarity. What we understand is that government cannot break communication on this. Any communication on whatever MOU that has been reached should come out through the official creditor committee. And as we understand that, all other things being equal, the communication could be broken soon from the official creditor committee point of view. And that is why government couldn't have broken any communication on this. It's because we have pushed hard on this, engaging some persons on the official creditor committee. And this is what we have reached, is that they are now okay with the MOU being reached on this whole debt in terms of Daryl restructuring about $5.4 billion that Ghana owes these bilateral creditors.
But we do not know how soon to expect to hear from the official creditor committee.
Daryl, we are not clear on that now in terms of the clear timelines. And don't forget that, Daryl, this committee, this communication should be coming from the committee. Now, they should make sure that every member of this committee, Daryl, crosses the T's and dots the I's. So we can have, for instance, there are about 10, and about 5 or 7 of them agree. They should work to ensure that the other 3 are in sync with the wording of the communication. And that is why it appears it had delayed and it hasn't come up. But from the way things are going, and even at the annual spring meetings where all these people are gathering here, it appears something should be coming out very soon with respect to the official creditor committee, Daryl.
Yeah, well, finally, a very important development I want to run by you. So we're hearing reports that Ghana has failed to reach a deal with its international bondholders. What are you hearing about that, and what is the implication for the release of the $360 million from the IMF?
And Daryl, if you recall earlier on, I explained to you that this whole debt restructuring is being done in twofold. One is with the bilateral creditors, and then the other is with the Eurobond holders. And even the Eurobond holders, Daryl, there's the international group, and then there is the Africa group as well. Now, what we have picked up is that 2 of the interest groups, even in the Africa holders, and even one part coming from the international holders, have raised concerns with the terms that was put forward. Now, Daryl, whatever agreement that Ghana reaches with any of these creditors, they have to go back to the International Monetary Fund for their blessing before anything can be put out. What we understand, Daryl, and even again engaging some persons on this committee, is that the IMF was not comfortable with the terms that have been proposed by Ghana for the Africa group. Because, again, as I explained earlier on, Daryl, this whole whatever deal that we reach with these creditors should be in line with the IMF program, i.e. helping reduce our debt. So if any terms is either going to spike our debt, the fund may have some concerns with that one. What we understand is that when it comes to the international group, it appears that they are okay with the term proposed. The Africa group has some concerns. Again, the fund also has some concerns with the terms being proposed. So it appears that within the next 1 week, there could be a rework of those terms, and then something will come out. Now, why was this statement coming out in the first place? We had a non-disclosure deal with these creditors that we were negotiating with. That deal, that term or period expired Monday. So government was compelled to issue a statement to all these creditors in terms of what is the next line of action and all that. And that is why the statement came. But again, what we are picking up is that, Daryl, it appears that there could be a rework of these terms, and then an official statement could come out soon. But Daryl, the bigger question here is that, would this impact on our next tranche of funds that Ghana should be getting? The answer is no. Because what I picked up from the IMF is that what they are even looking at for, Daryl, is that MOU with respect to the deal being reached with the bilateral creditors. It appears that the debt deal for the Eurobond holders could be a 3rd or 4th review requirement, but government is trying to work fast to close a page on that one. So, Daryl, it may not be a big question here when it comes to having a deal with these Eurobond holders,
right,
i.e. Ghana going to the vote to get the management and board approval for our second review, Daryl.
George Yafe, thank you so much. Live for us from Washington, D.C. in the U.S. He's covering the annual World Bank IMF spring meetings. We are surely going to get an update from George in the course of the week, but also joining us on Zoom to make sense of the latest developments is Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University, Williams Pepra. You've been hearing us speak about the latest development, Prof. And so we've reached a deal with our bilateral creditors, peers, but there's not been an official communication to that effect from the official creditor committee. What do you make of this news?
I'm glad that we are moving forward gradually with our debt restructuring with our external partners. The first part, which is the bilateral creditors, which is almost done, it's a good news to Ghanaians. What we are waiting for is to get to know about the details and whether the restructuring of that debt can really help us to meet the debt sustainability strategy as administered in the IMF document.
Well, I was just going to make the point. I'm just trying to figure out why maybe a deal was reached in February and it's March, or we are in April. We've not heard about it. What's with the delay? What do you think is happening?
Government just communicated that a deal is reached, but the parties must also agree to some terms. So sometimes, government wanted to put or to communicate to Ghanaians some form of assurance and also to ensure the investor community that the work that is ongoing with external creditors, specifically the bilateral holders or lenders, are really on course. So that delay in communicating fully, as mentioned by UFA, is to fulfill the requirement that the non-disclosure requirement. But government gave us hints that this was done in February. So it's just to ensure some confidence in the Ghanaian economy.
Well, on the flip side, we seem to be struggling with international bondholders. We are told that they failed to reach an agreement. Listening to George, he says they have to rework it. Your thoughts on this latest developments as well and its impact on the IMF program?
I mean, if we look at the Zambian case, Ghana's case, it gives us a clue how international bondholders normally behave. We should expect that they will not easily give in to haircuts. So that is why we are struggling. But I'm sure we may find a way to reach an agreement with them. It will not come as fast as we did with the domestic bondholders. That one, we should rest assured that the external one, the Euro bondholders, will really delay, in my perspective, because the parties that are involved are focusing on not losing money. They are also looking at how any haircut will impact their bottom line. So it's going to be a tough discussion or negotiation. So that is how it is. They have been able to wait since we declared that we will not pay our debts when they are due, and they are holding on to the bonds, and discussions are ongoing.
I mean, what would it take?
They want the best for themselves, and Ghana also want to find a way to come out with a way to restructure it to meet the debt sustainability approach.
What would likely appease them? What would it take for them to agree to a deal?
I mean, if you look at what Reuters is saying, I mean, they don't want to have a haircut. They rather want to have the principal maintained and then a long-term way of repayment. So they want the tenor of the maturity be extended, and then possibly a reduction in the coupon rate. But Ghana is proposing to have a haircut of about 10 billion, so US dollars. And this is what is causing the delay in those discussions. They hold about 30 billion of Euro bonds, and about 3 of them will be due by 2026, which we have to focus on restructuring. So it's very, very difficult. And we should know that where we are in the world now, all entities want cash. So to agree to a haircut becomes a big challenge. So that is why we are having this kind of delay.
Well, so the IMF has said that a staff-level agreement is no guarantee for release of funds. Looking at the latest developments, where do we stand right now when it comes to the release of the $360 million from the IMF?
I mean, if I listen to Yafi very well, at this stage, what we need to cross is the MOU signed by these bilateral
Creditors.
debt holders.
Yeah.
So these creditors, once they get it signed, we are sure that, I mean, this 360 may come in. But going forward, before we get to the next review, we should have been able to reach an agreement with these are Eurobond creditors. So that is the most important thing. IMF is aware that new negotiations with these Eurobond holders take time. So if you are picked loose from what we have mentioned, it may be a fourth consideration, level of consideration, but we have to still work at it to make sure that we get it done because we want to focus on debt sustainability approach.
All right. I appreciate your insights, Professor Williams Pippa, all the way from the Andrews University in the U.S. Thank you so much. It's always insightful to speak to you about the IMF and other economic issues. I appreciate your time. And so in response to the revenue gap caused by the abandonment of value-added tax on electricity, the government is planning to implement a tax on the foreign incomes of resident Ghanaians. Earlier this year, the government introduced VAT on electricity, but a public backlash led to its abandonment, leaving a revenue gap of approximately 1.8 billion cedis. Originally, the VAT on electricity was part of the revenue measures outlined in Ghana's agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Well, joining us on Zoom now is senior partner in charge of tax at Deloitte, George Ankoma, for some perspective. Don't mind, Prof is still on behind me. But would this move, George, if you could hear me, by government boost revenue and address the shortfalls we are experiencing?
Thank you, Daryl, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners. I believe you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Right. Okay. So this move, whether it will be able to close the gap or not, would depend on how the Revenue Authority ensure that they are efficient in ensuring that the move or the policy initiative is actually implemented and implemented as expected. For me, I said this is not something new. It is actually a tax that is supposed to be paid by all resident persons, irrespective of where the source or where the income is earned from. To the extent that you are resident in Ghana, and if you say somebody is resident in Ghana, it means the person is either a citizen who does not have a permanent home outside the country for the entire year, or you are a foreigner who is resident in Ghana for 183 days or more in any 12 months period. You could also be a citizen who is temporarily out of the Ghana for continuous 183 days.
I saw that George. George is frozen. We'll try and get him back here on the marketplace. Hopefully, if he comes back, we'll continue the conversation. But let's turn to other news. Are you still there, George?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, but your video is off.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah. So excellent. Continue from where we left. Yeah.
The power trip, so apologies for that.
It's typical in Ghana now.
Yeah. So like I was saying, this has to do with Ghanaians who have incomes that are earned outside Ghana. Yes. And the requirement under the income tax law, which was passed way back in 2015, is that once you're a resident of Ghana, your global income is taxable in Ghana. And so what the tax authority is doing here to close the gap is to say that we are giving a window for people who have not disclosed their foreign sourced income in Ghana to disclose those incomes, and they will be forgiven the penalties for non-disclosure in the past.
Next question, will people actually bring down their incomes seeing it's going to be taxed?
So that bringing down the income does not necessarily mean that you should carry or transfer the bank account or whatever source the income is to Ghana, but rather to disclose those incomes in Ghana because you are a resident in Ghana. And for that reason, irrespective of wherever the income is sourced from, because you are a resident, and this is not new or this is not uncommon globally, where you are resident in a particular country, then wherever you earn income from, you are supposed to then disclose in the country of residence or where you are a citizen, you disclose those incomes, and then if taxes have not been paid on, you pay those taxes. If you have paid taxes on these incomes in wherever country where you earn them from, you also disclose the taxes that you have paid, and those will be given to you as a credit. The truth is that if you disclose these incomes and the taxes you have paid elsewhere is even more than what you are supposed to pay in Ghana, you do not have any additional tax obligation in Ghana. But what the requirement is here is that you are supposed to disclose that with the Revenue Authority in Ghana.
Do you anticipate that this could create any foreign exchange gaps?
If there should be any impact on foreign exchange, I would say it should be a positive one, because we are looking at incomes that are sourced from outside Ghana. And so if you disclose those incomes in Ghana and they are in foreign currency because the source is out of Ghana, and you are supposed to pay any taxes in Ghana, it means you are going to remit those taxes in Ghana with or coming in that foreign currency, unless you decide that because you have enough Ghana cedis and so you want to pay those taxes in Ghana with Ghana cedis. Else, you are going to pay, because those taxes will be assessed based on the currencies where the incomes were earned. And so those benefits that will come in terms of foreign exchange would be that you are bringing in the foreign income for tax purposes.
All right, George Ankumar, Senior Tax Partner at Deloitte, I appreciate your time with us this afternoon on the Marketplace. Thank you so much. Moving on to the financial markets, interest rates remained relatively same for the first time since the beginning of the year. However, the government's treasury bills were oversubscribed by 22.25% after 2 weeks of undersubscription. Here's more in this report.
Following a rise in inflation in March, there were concerns that the falling interest rate will halt. This reflected in the 91-day bill as the yield stayed same at 25.73%. That of the 182-day bill went down by 8 basis points to 28.14%. However, the interest on the 364-day bill shot up to 28.74% from the previous 28.33%. Going forward, it's unclear whether interest rate will resume its falling spree. Meanwhile, the government got 4.228 billion cedis from the sale of the short-term instruments. This is compared with a target of 2.459 billion cedis. About 85.2% of the bids tendered came from the 91-day bill. All the bids of the 3.606 billion cedis were accepted. For the 182-day bill, 505.19 million cedis were received, and the uptake was same. The one-year bill also saw about 117.64 billion cedis tendered. The uptake was also 117.64 million cedis.
Now, the stock prices of Cowbank and MTN Ghana are expected to decline on the Ghana Stock Exchange this week. This is based on the bids and offer dynamics on the market. Here's Grace Munayon of Data Bank Research on how your investments will fare this week.
Last week, the bourse registered 4 price movers of 2 gainers and 2 laggards. The gainers were GCB Bank and New Gold, whereas Cowbank and MTN Ghana both declined. The declines drove the market indices lower, as the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index shed 0.30% weekly, to a year-to-date gain of 9.95%, whereas the Data Bank Stock Index remained fairly stable at a year-to-date gain of 9.06%. Overall weekly turnover totaled 38.9 million Ghana cedis after exchanging 6.5 million shares across 18 different counters. New gold topped the market activity, accounting for 74% of the aggregate turnover. Based on the bids and offer dynamics on the market, we tip the prices of Cowbank and MTN Ghana to decline this week. For Joy Business Reports, Grace Munanyun of Databank Research.
The economy has not witnessed much growth in dollar terms. This is as a result of challenges with the Ghana cedi during the period. Here's more in this report.
Ghana's economy in monetary terms reached more than 841 billion Ghana cedis ending December 2023. This should mean that every Ghanaian should be worth 26,000 Ghana cedis as at the end of 2023. The data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows in 2018, when the country's population was 30.8 million, the country's per capita income was 10,000 Ghana cedis. Fast forward to 2023, it increased to 26,000 Ghana cedis. However, when you review the numbers in dollar terms, the country's per capita income has rather witnessed some marginal increase over the past 6 years. In 2018, Ghana's per capita dollar terms was around $2,273. The amount in 2023 went up marginally to reach $2,365. The developments can be linked to the recent challenges with the Ghana cedi over that period in terms of its stability against the dollar. Now, per capita income in dollar terms has been the benchmark in measuring the country's wealth and growth on its citizens. A stronger per capita income could give some signal to investors that the economy is strong and they could have some good returns on their investment. So the next time we get worried about the cedi depreciation, it should not just be about the country's debt, but how that could affect the performance of the economy as a whole.
All right, and that's it for the marketplace. But there is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Government fails to reach debt deal with international bondholders to restructure $13 billion. Also, T-bills interest rates remain unchanged for the first time since January 1. Government achieves 22% over subscription. myjoyonline.com/business. We leave you with our Money Lab episode for today.
Hello, welcome to Money Lab. My name is Ransford Matekole, Head of New Business Advisory at Enterprise Trustees. Today we will be talking about retirement. Retirement is a time in life when the main source of income changes from active income to passive income, that is, private investments, pensions, annuities, etc. It can be a mandatory or voluntary withdrawal from the job market. Retirement is often synonymous with the idea of financial independence, which is when your savings and your investments are sufficient to support you for the rest of your life. It's a good time to set a retirement budget, plan a milestone, and prioritize your wellness. In Ghana, the mandatory retirement age is 60, but one can also choose to go on voluntary retirement at the age of 55. Till we come your way again on our next episode of Money Lab, please remember to plan well and retire well.